this computer. Okay. So again, it's been a while since we've met. So I wanted to take an opportunity to catch up with you all, give an opportunity to ask questions. And obviously, iPad's the big release this year. It's been very difficult for me, unfortunately, to really be able to put any effort into Sculpt Corner. My nights and days have just been swamped getting ZBrush for iPad out the door. It's been pretty much a 2-year project. So for the most part, a lot of it also really within the last 12 months, really just we were all working crazy hours. So I just didn't have the capacity to really do much. Unfortunately, I haven't made any personal artwork in over a year. So
I can testify to that, you guys. He's up like all hours of the day in Israel time, practically. So, you know, it's been fun to be a part of the development process for ZBrush for iPad. I think you guys will really enjoy it.
yeah, thanks, Reeve. So there is no desktop version that's new since the version in January. We've had to do some incremental releases, hot fixes and stuff. We did a release obviously with the iPad so it could be compatible with the iPad for files, and then that's how we rolled out iPad Go Z, which we still have to look into. There's people like Gary, even other people having problems not being able to use it, so it's something we need to look into and see maybe we can solve it. It's a lot of networking issues, so I don't know if we're going to be able to solve everyone's issue, but really need to look into people that have Ethernet hooked up on their desktop. Seems to be causing problems, so we got to look into this. It might be the routers themselves are giving an actual different a different network in essence compared to what's Wi-Fi hooked up, and that's why they can't see each other. So there's so many variables with this, so it's very
But
difficult.
it doesn't even work on personal stuff. You know what I mean? Like your personal,
Right.
your iPad to your
You broke up.
Mac,
You
it
broke up.
work across that.
You
Oh,
we don't know what
can
you're
you
saying.
hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, go.
Ah, um, you can hear me?
Yep.
It,
Yep.
it doesn't work across a personal hotspot either.
Yeah, we didn't code it for a personal hotspot.
Yeah,
It's not going to be strong enough to do a personal hotspot.
yeah.
It's not strong enough. You probably wouldn't even be able to activate ZBrush on a personal hotspot.
Sometimes just airdropping is fast. Sometimes just airdropping is faster than go Zing something though. You
Yeah,
know?
because they're not using a network. They're using the devices
Yeah.
and stuff and Bluetooth, so it's different. So yeah, but there's nothing we need
Yeah.
to we got to think of not just Apple to Apple. We're gonna do Apple to Windows, and the only way to do that is through a network, really. So or finding some scripting way or something like that. So I don't know. We'll have to look into it. It's obviously version 1.0. So we'll continue looking at it. We got Rodolfo here with us too, who's part of the ZBrush team now. So you guys got double ZBrushers from the team. So again, I just wanted to take time to meet up with you guys and go through and answer questions. So since there's not many of you, it probably won't be that long of a meeting. It's not like we can't meet again though. We'll try to make some meetings. I'm taking some weeks off in December, so hopefully I can get one of my sculpts done that I've been wanting to do forever, and we'll see if I can get done because then I can do another class. I'll look into, it's just the cost I'm having to pay to keep all the websites up and stuff is not necessarily the cheapest. So, and I haven't done anything, so it's kind of expired. So I got to look into that. All right. Besides the point, iPad wise, this is really the only thing that's new to talk about for the most part. So
You
we'll
can't
cover
tell
this.
them about the Apple Watch version, which comes out next year.
No, absolutely not. Top secret. Code name Chris Griswold. Okay. Code name. Code name. Okay. So let's dive in. I know Yuriv, I know Rodolfo have an iPad. Winston and Rodrigo, do you have iPads?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got it specifically for this.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
do.
Can I ask which iPads you guys all have? Can you guys just shout it out?
The 1 TB M4.
I'm not even sure
But
which
you got
one.
the new M4, the new M4
Uh-huh.
with 1 TB,
Yeah,
nanoglass or without the nanoglass?
without an glass. I just put
Cool.
the paper-like screen protector on it.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good.
Winston, go ahead. What did you get?
Oh, I actually have a really old iPod or iPad, sorry.
Which one? That's what I want to know. Like how
oh,
old?
let's see. It's 8th generation. Um, so it's pretty old. But
Because I did all the beta testing and all my model making on an iPad that was like 6 years old.
Is as long as it's got an A12 chip and up, you'll be able to get ZBrush for iPad. So that's what you'll want to look at.
But ZBrush practically runs on a watch battery. I mean, it's that efficient. You know?
But we're only supporting A12 chips and up
Yeah.
for the public one.
Did you ever get it running on the original iPad, the original 15-inch?
No, I don't know. You can't even use those. You can't even upgrade to the operating system, so you wouldn't be able to.
Hmm.
Those are bricks now. They're useless. You can't even get the newest OSs or anything. So
Yeah.
I ran it on original iPad Pro, the first gen and the second gen.
How did that go?
It's okay. It's not the best performance. That's why we're not supporting it.
When I run it on the M4, it's like lightning. It's almost as fast as the desktop.
Okay. Well,
Okay, cool.
let's go through it. So I'm gonna break this down kind of how I break it down to everybody now. And so you can get an idea of what you're doing and how you're working through this and answer some questions. And go through kind of the things you want to look at. I'm using an M4 with a Pencil Pro. So I have the double tap and the squeeze and the roll ability in my pencil. So obviously the first things first is your major brushes are going to be down here. Then newest version will actually show you what brush, but actually you can also just hover now and get all your information. If you have a hover state iPad, which you need to at least have an M2 chip or higher, you can see it gives you also your keyboard shortcuts. You can use the keyboard with ZBrush. There's some more things we got to look into for that though. It does not allow you to load custom hotkeys yet. There's a lot of scenarios we got to go take a look for that. Navigation wise, it's multiple things. So obviously you can just 2-finger, and the blue dots are my fingers. So 2 fingers is obviously your move. Your zoom is pinching like you would. And then your rotate is a single finger. There is another rotate, which I know your Eve likes to use. So you can do 2 fingers, and then if you let go of 1 finger, then it starts to rotate. However, for this one, I would strongly recommend changing some feature settings. I would not keep it because this, as you can see, it's kind of just start flipping and flopping. I would come into settings, and if you're going to do that, I would go into navigation, and I would change this rotate XYZ to just rotate Y. And honestly, I'd probably drop your rotation down to maybe like a 0.7 or somewhere around there. So it's even a little bit slower to rotate. And you'll probably have feeling like you got a little bit more control there. This is something I would probably do. So you can have that ability. The center navigation to pinch and allow roll gesture. These 2 options are on by default. So in essence, where your fingers are for pinching, that's where it zooms in and out to. So you can see if I'm way outside of the model, it's going to zoom away from me. So the idea is you should normally, we're going to want to do this. We're going to want to be on top of the model where we want to zoom into. And then the roll gesture is this, being able to zoom and roll at the same time. So this is something I had to get used to a little bit. It didn't take me that much time, but the minute I got used to it, I was like, okay, I love this. Being able to zoom and rotate at the same time is very handy. So I want to work in here. Now I can do that and then rotate back out. So that is what these 2 options are. Okay, the other thing that you probably might want to change is in the input. By default, we have touch navigation off. This is something too, Rodolfo and I and the rest of the team have to take a look at. We might turn this on by default instead. This is in essence telling it that when you're over a model, you can't finger sculpt, right? So now I'm using just my finger. I'm not using the pencil to finger sculpt. With this on, now you can't use the finger to sculpt. So I prefer it off. I don't want to have finger sculpting in there. So that is your general navigation. Now to undo, redo, there's multiple ways to do this. Obviously, 2-finger tap is undo, 3-finger tap is redo. You can also come over here and then use your undo redos. And the UI for undo history has been completely updated in the most recent version. And so now you can come in here, you'll have the icons as well. You can also just tap and it'll actually cycle through, or you can slide and scroll. And if you got a pencil like mine, I actually can feel in the pencil every single notch in the undo. So you know you actually went through your undos. And then this is going to be a highlight. The biggest thing you're going to want for the iPad understanding is obviously it's got a new UI. And we're trying to make it so we have pretty much everything at our disposal as much as we can. So this is still an ongoing process for us. But anytime you see icons, that should be giving you a light bulb that there's things here for you to use. This one over here in the top right is the most common one you're going to see. And whenever you see that, that means there are options for that palette or that menu. And you'll want to click on that. This is your menu options that allows you, for example, all your undo history sliders and options are right here. So instead of having to go find it in the settings, you have it right here. So we're going to continue this thought process through the whole application now. It's a lot of, we got to take advantage of touch. We got to take advantage of things that we can do with the pencil. Okay, so with that said, obviously we set this up to be a little bit like the desktop, so it's not too far off to the left field. So on the left side is going to be all our pickers, just like we have in the desktop, but our pickers have been completely redesigned. So obviously when you open the brush palette now, you have all your brushes just like you would on the desktop. You have the alphabet, but now when you click on a letter, it only shows you those brushes that start with that letter P, and then all the brushes are now foldered up. So now you can go through folders and find brushes this way, which is very nice. There's also a favorites tab. So all you have to do is heart a brush, and I'll show you another way to do that. And now that's in my favorites. So some people might want that always, and they can just always be in their favorites. However, this is what the bottom bar is for, is in essence creating your own favorites bottom bar. Okay, so moving on, as you can see, again, the icons in the top right, there are options here. And then this is going to just pull up the brush palette right in the same area. So you don't have to go into find another menu, even though you can. And there's going to be reasons why we want to do this. Okay, icon on the top left actually just makes it smaller. We're doing this because everyone's got different size iPads. ZBrush will even work on a mini. And there were actually some beta testers that sculpted stuff on a mini, and that's very tiny. I'm on a 13-inch, so it's not as big as a deal as me, but we're doing this kind of stuff for the people that have different size iPads. So all the pickers are set up this way, where you're going to have your menus in the top right corner that you can click on. Things are going to get folded up. So all your hard surface alphas, standard alphas. So this is how we're moving forward. They're all going to work the same way. There's new materials that got shipped with ZBrush. So there's now actually Monster Clay materials. These are exact replicants of Monster Clay itself.
How do you turn on the startup material by default? How do you pick it?
You mean doing the like a startup material as the default material that you want every single time?
Yes.
So in the material palette, we're gonna put it here, but we didn't add it. So it's not there. It's something that's gonna get added. So these are just exact replicants of like what the clay would look like. Okay. So there's two types. There is a matte cap, which are the bottom three, and then there are standard materials. So these will obviously change with lighting. So depending on your lighting, they're going to look a little different. So, but that's what the three on the top are. And the three on the bottom, as you can see, Monster Clay, Matte Cap Brown in the viewport. And you can see what those are. So these are, we worked close with Monster Clay to get these to work. Hey, Chris, welcome. So that's something also new to ZBrush that was sent out in the desktop and in the iPad version. Okay, all of your sliders are now in one location. So as you can see, nothing's along the top for that RGB and everything. So this is where we're going to start looking at other things. So changing your draw size, there's going to be more than one way to do that. Okay, so obviously you can come over here and tap on draw size, and then you can keep it open. So as you're sculpting, you can just change your draw size however you want. Or you can use 3 fingers to slide up and down, and that'll change your draw size. And if you go right to left, that'll actually change your focal shift. All right. I'm a big fan of just long pressing and letting go of the draw size to change my draw size, because my thumb's usually over there pretty close. So it's just an easy way for me to get to that draw size if you want. So anything with a little triangular chevron icon in the corners means it's got a long press. So if I long press this, it's going to switch colors. Right? So that's stuff you also want to start looking out for. Now, sculpting wise, we got to start looking at this. Again, we're going to start using a lot of brushes. So obviously, as you sculpt, we need to smooth, we need to do other things. So this is coming into play now. This is in essence your keyboard. That is virtually just put here. So it's 4 keys. This is your shift key. So this will be your smooth. Right? This is your masking key. Right? So you can mask. And I'm using my finger to even swap between the masking. This is obviously your Alt key to push in. And then this is the new quick menu, which is very exciting. You're going to be able to customize the quick menu now and make up to 5 different ones. So this is meant to be wherever you want. Now, if you're not a big fan of icons, you can change this. So in your settings, under UI, there's going to be a size here of, do you want small, medium, extra large? I think extra large, gigantic, but there's people that still want even bigger. So this is just different sizes. Medium for me is nice. If you want to do, if you're a big Apple fan, you can switch it to the Apple icons. Or if you want more Windows, you can switch to the Shift, Control, Alt, and Space to help you remember that. It's really those 3, right? So the idea here is on a desktop, we use shortcuts on a keyboard a lot, but that's not going to be the case on an iPad always. You might not even have a keyboard hooked up to your iPad necessarily. So this is where the bottom bar comes into play. So you'll notice when I hold down the shift, it actually switches to just the smoothing brush. You don't have this in the desktop. You hold down masking and only shows those. Okay. And if I want to get the clipping brushes, I can slide the buttons and that'll give me my selection, my clipping, my trims, my knife brushes. You just slide. You can start with Control and Shift. It doesn't matter which one you start with. Okay. So this has that ability to do any sliding that you might want. And then along the bottom, there are things that we're going to use constantly. So these are just the popular brushes that we all constantly use over and over and over again. This is where your gizmo is now. If you long press, you can switch the transpose line this way. And then turn that off. And then from here, you can see that's Dynamesh, Sculptris Pro, Z-Remesher, Subdivisions, and Live Boolean. Okay.
Are you guys gonna put an icon there for subdivision surfaces so we can turn them off and on the dynamic subdivision?
I don't know yet. We're still figuring out what we're gonna do in the UI for dynamic subdivisions, because they're subdivisions, so we could just put them in this menu and put dynamic subdivisions right here. It's the same button because it's the same on-off state in essence. So I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. We'll have to look and figure out what we're going to do. It's something we're looking into. Okay, so all these have long press except for live Boolean because there's nothing really to change for live Boolean. So these are all long presses that you can get to. These are actually just taps because these are, you do the options and then you press the button. These have an on and off state, so we need tap to turn them on and off. And then you need long press to get into the options. So everything has that. So if I come up to my camera, I get my camera settings. This is your floor grid. This is symmetry, and then you're going to have your symmetry options right there. You don't need to go to transform palette. This is your local symmetry. This is framing. This is polyframe. This is transparency, and then this is ghost and not ghost. And then this is solo mode. So you can see those buttons are in the same location as they are on the desktop. This is the idea. All right. Now, looking at this other things that you want to be aware of, we ripped off subtools and made it its just own menu. So it's got its own icon and its own menu. We've got a lot more ideas with this. So, but it's just a way for us to only look at subtools, which is nice. And then to get all the other menus is the item above. So now if I want the tool palette, here's my tool palette, and now I have my tool palette. And then it's the same thing that you're used to. These are your sub palettes. And as you click into one, the bottom part updates. So there's your different. And then so this can be scrolled and this can be scrolled. And then this little icon will allow you to move things how you want them to be. Right? So you can expose more or less. And then it's just scrolling up and down. Now, we really felt it's important for you guys to have customability and the way you want to work. You might want to work fast. You might want certain things available to you at all times. So this is where we made trays. So what you can do with any of the menus is this top icon on the top. You can just click and then boom, you made a floating tray. And now the beauty is this floating tray can have different sizes as well. And then I can do stuff like this and I can just look at that. So I can even take the sub palette, rip that off if I want to, and have it be its own part of the tray. I can even take the picker, and now the picker, the brush picker is also part of this tray. And now you as a user, you move this wherever you want within here space so that you can always have access. So if I hit on the tool palette, or I can go to the picker and you see they're different sizes. And so I can say the subtool menu can be smaller and then the brush picker is bigger. So this little handle will make things smaller or bigger for you down here. And so they can be their own size. And then you can move this up and down where you want, and then move this where you want. You click to close. So all you gotta do is click and drag out anything from the bars that are a menu option, and they'll go into the tray. Or you can come down here and you can say add palette, and then you can just pick. And you'll notice floor grid is its own palette now. So it's not in draw anymore, and camera is not in draw anymore. So we're taking this time to make more sense. It really doesn't make too much sense for a new user to understand that camera is in a draw menu. Same thing with floor grid. So we're experimenting with ideas and thoughts here on the iPad and seeing what could roll over and work on the desktop as well. So all you have to do, if I want stroke, I just click on it, and now that's part of my tray. And if I don't want this anymore, that's why it's got a long press. You long press and say I can close this tab. Close other tabs means close everything but this one. Close tab means just get rid of it, get it out of the tray. And you click here, the delete means you're deleting the tray, that you have to start over again. And now it's gone. Right? So this is one thing. Especially for this, I am often doing this, just keeping my sub tools here while I work maybe. Just so I can look at things a little bit easier and doing my merging and things like that. And then I can just close it when I don't need it. So it's nice to have that ability. But we didn't stop there. We also wanted you to be able to customize the bottom bar. And we wanted you to be able to customize the quick menu. So you're going to have the ability to make more than one quick menu. You can make 5. And then you can make 5 bottom bars. The quick menu now lives in 3 locations. So I'm clicking this top arrows to go back and forth through them. And now if I want to customize, I can go up to this top icon right here. And now we're in the customize menu. So you can click on brushes and you can get actual information about brushes where it's available. And then you can add to the bar here. So if I want to start adding stuff down here, I can just say, you know what, I want some hard surface down here. So I'm going to say, look for my hard surface and say, okay, I really like the bevel arc. You just long press and put it down. Now I want to make this faster though, because there are other brushes I do like. So I like using the bevel flat. I also like using H polish, trim, and let's say planer and trim adaptive. You see it's adding all those brushes. And when I drop them down, it adds all 5 at the same time. Very fast, very convenient. And then now, in the newest version, you can even have all your icons. So when we rolled out, you didn't have the ability to have all these other settings. So like, obviously, I would want the gizmo probably over here. So that way, when I come out of this and I'm in my customize, I don't have to move over to the other one to switch to my gizmo. This is something we did not have in the initial release, and now we have in this. Okay, so this gives us the ability that I don't have to come back here to get those options we're putting in the default. You can now put those options in any one of the bars. So this is about speeding up the process for us all. Okay, so what that means is also the quick menu can be customized. So it's going to work the same way. If I want something here, like, right, all your palettes are right here. They're all available to you. So if I want certain settings in the tool palette, and I'd say I want stuff in geometry, like I really want, I'm using proxy pose a lot. You just, same thing, click and drag over, right? And then click and drag over. Same thing for all sliders or whatever else you want. Okay, so then dynamics, maybe I want that, maybe I want an apply, and then maybe I want the smooth slider as well. This is also going to work the same way as the bottom bar. So what I mean by that is I can say, let's give thickness, segments, let's grab all of these, let's also grab that divider bar and drag it over, and now they're all there. And you'll notice the divider bar can also be used as a divider bar. So that'll help you space out maybe things that you want to space out within this particular quick menu. Right now, you don't have the option to rename it. Right now, you don't have the option to save it out. This is, again, something we're evaluating and looking into. But the idea here is trying to speed up the process of certain things that you're used to, like Control W to make a new polygroup. That is calling a button, is what it's calling. Okay. So it's looking at polygroups, and then it's calling a button in here to make a new polygroup. Okay, so it's actually this one right here is the Control W. So I might want that at my disposal. So when I'm in here, right, and I'm doing this, and then I'm masking, I can now just come in here, right, and then look at there, and there's a new polygroup. This is the idea. We can't just have the whole menu all over the place on an iPad. So we had to come up with ideas and thoughts here. And I think the team did a really fantastic job. We're being nominated for awards for this, so it's very exciting to see if the team will win some awards. So I can't wait. Hopefully, I think they should. It'd be amazing to have them win awards. Okay, so this is part of all your customization. So along with that, we're allowing you to customize also your fingers and your pencil. So in the settings, in input, for me, I can assign double tap to be fit. I can assign squeeze to be polyframe. So now I can squeeze my pencil. So you see I'm nowhere near my iPad. I can double tap the frame and I'm nowhere near my iPad, right? So I can squeeze at any time and double tap at any time to turn that on and off, right? So here's your framing, double tap. And a misunderstanding of the pencil is everyone thinks you have to double tap on the flat part. You actually don't. For the pencil generation 2 and the Pro, you don't have to double tap on the flat. It can be any part of the pencil. The flat part's just to charge. That's all it's for. So you can double tap anywhere. Right? And then I can squeeze and then turn that on and off.
You can also pick it up away from the surface, like much further than a Wacom pen. I mean, you can move it very far away from that surface and you can access the features like squeeze and double tap.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near it right now. I'm just holding my hand up to the camera right now, and I'm nowhere near my iPad at all. Yeah, it's very handy. So other things, obviously, is your finger. So you guys have your double tap 2 finger. You can assign actions, some actions that we've exposed, 3 finger and 4 finger. So you can control these, and you don't have to have undo, redo. You can maybe do something else. Maybe you want those to be something else, growing and shrinking, right? Maybe you want to make a new folder. So this is the first wave. We'll be looking at much more than just these to allow for you to use, right? So all of them have the same menu right now. So it's just deciding what you want, right? So maybe I want to use squeeze instead to maybe say, hey, I want to just turn my perspective on and off. So I can turn my perspective on and off with the squeeze. Okay, so this is all part of that customization, allowing you as the user. All right. The other thing that would be important in this menu, besides the touch navigation, is your palm rejection. So this is just a default that we found, but everyone's going to be different. So this is just saying how much of, in essence, the hand to look at. So the lower the number, the less of the hand it's looking at. The problem if you go too low, you're pretty much going to be, it's going to be difficult to navigate because then it's going to need distinct finger pressing. Okay, so We have found the sweet spots for most people is this default number, but there are people I've talked to that put it at 50, put it at 40, put it at 90. Everyone's different. For me, 60 was working fine. I don't ever have a problem with my palm doing stuff for me. But again, everyone is different. So that's an important setting for you, though, for you to have an understanding that it is there for you to use. Okay. The big thing too that we changed is all importing, exporting, loading, and saving are all done through just 2 icons now. Everything. That includes brushes, alphas, textures. And in order to do any kind of exporting, you have to have the subscription. The free version will not allow you to export. You can't use GoZ and you can't export the files. You can save projects and tools, but those can only be loaded in the ZBrush iPad version or the desktop 2025 version and up. Okay, so these icons on the top is where your saving is. So this is your import load. So when you go to 3D model, this is where you can pick, well, what do you want to bring in? OBJ, Maya, GoZ, USD. And this is also new. We now have USD-Z for both desktop and iPad. And then this is where you can do ZPR or ZTLs if you really want to load them in. Right, and then this is everything. So why we did this is kind of to make it more geared towards the new users as well. Obviously, I have some other ideas. The team has some other ideas of how we're going to expand upon this. But we can go to one menu and you can see everything we import or load. Okay, and if you go here, you can see everything that we export or save. So 3D model, you can see you can do USD, ZTLs, and you can see it all right here. Okay, and then you can name your things right here if you want to as well. And then you have all your options right here that you would need for exporting and saving. So that is the theme here of what we're doing. So you can see turntables here. It is in the movie palette still. We also put it here. So we built this also for the ability to grow. And the more and more ZBrush grows, the more and more things we're going to allow load, save, export. So there are things we're going to keep adapting to this and working with this, okay, to go forward with. So this is the one big thing. Now, when you long press the save, you can do your save, save as, save next. By default, it's always going to do a save unless it's never saved the project ever. Okay, and by default, the iPad is using projects by the default. You can change that. So what we did is this button allows you to do save, save as, and save next. So for me, when I am working on a model, I'm a big iteration saver, as you guys know. I do V01, 02, 03, blah, 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 blah. That's what save next does for us. So for me, if I was saving this, right, it's going to ask me, well, you've never done this. So I'm going to head test and save. Okay. And so now when I go and sculpt on this, and if I just tap on this, there it did the save. It tells you on the top up here what it's doing in ZBrush. So boom, save. Well, problem is it's saving over top the same file. Okay. That's a nice thing because iPads don't have the same space as computers do necessarily, right? Depending on your iPad. So if I'm working on this, I want to do save next, but I don't want to do a long press to do it. So I'm going to go to the user settings, which is in the top corner settings, and then there's file. And what we've done is we've allowed you to edit and again, customize that save icon button. So you can tell it, do you want it always to save projects or tools every time you press that button? And when you press it, what do you want it to do? A save, save as, or save next? So I'm going to switch this to save next so that as I'm sculpting, okay, and working on something, I hit boom, it's doing a save next is what it's doing. So as I keep working here through this, and then smoothing, and then boom, save next. Then start building up some more, smoothing this out, and then a save next. So the beauty of this is if we go back to our home page now, where everything lives, this is where if I want to start a new sculpt, we have some default meshes, we have our primitives, and then we have the Z-Zoo with the Z-sphere. So the entire Z-Zoo's here with the Z-sphere. If I go to the home, you'll see all the models that I'm currently working on, or these are other artists' models, not mine. These are from the beta testers. So you can see here's mine that I've been working on, and you see there's a number 4. That is the iteration. So if I click on that, you can clearly see my iterations going from the first one to the most recent. And you see we automatically put 001, 002, 003 for you. And then now if I just tap on that, it loads it, and then boom, we're good to go.
Is there a way to know where they're saved?
They're by default, iPads don't work like a desktop, right? So by default, it's all going to save within your files folders. Right. So on my iPad, there's really only like a couple locations you can even save stuff to an iPad. It's either on my iPad, your downloads, or like iCloud, or if you have a Google, that's it. You can't really put anything anywhere else on an iPad. That's it. It's restricting. So on your iPad is in essence your main folder. I would almost call it your desktop. And this is where everything can save. So all applications, right? So like any application you use, they're going to save this way. They're going to save inside their folder structures. So all the other applications that I have, anything I would save would be going into here. So ZBrush is not any different. So in this ZBrush, this is where I can put stuff. So you see, I've got some alphas here that I've put in here. Okay. And by default, any project's going to go in the Z projects folder. So there you go. There you can see my 003, 002, 001 that I just saved. They're around 10 megabytes. And then any tool you save is automatically going to go here. Okay. So when you click that save button, you can't control where that goes. It goes to the default locations in here. And then the key thing to understand for this folder structure, since we're talking about it, you can import any brushes from the desktop as long as you have the paid version, the subscription version. Now, you can only do one at a time because that's also what you can do on the desktop. You can only load one brush at a time. So the iPad's the same thing. It's structured on the desktop version. However, the Z Startup folder is what you guys have been used to. So if you go into Z Startup folder, you guys have folders here: alphas, presets, materials, textures, cam views. So any brush that you always want to be in your ZBrush for iPad and be available, you just put in this brush presets. And then every single time you launch ZBrush for iPad, those brushes will be there. Same thing for materials, same things for textures and alphas, of course. So right now, this is what we rolled out with, the first 5 folders that allow you to just dump everything in there. These are the first 5 folders you can do that. And every time you launch, you do that. So if you have 20 brushes that you love on the desktop that aren't in here, you could take them, just take those 20 and dump them in the brush presets. And then every time you launch, they'll be there. Right. And then what they'll do is they will make a users folder. So in the brush palette, you'll create a users folder once we put a new brush in there. Okay, so I don't have any. So there's no user folder. So right above favorites, there'll be a user folder. So the other way to also do favorites is you can long press on any brush in the bottom bar, and you can add to favorites as well this way. So if you want a location destination, this is where you need to do one of these. If I want to export this model and I want to say I want a ZTL, okay, and then I export it, then it opens up, well, what do you want to do? And then now it's like, do you want to airdrop it? Do you want to put it in a message? Do you want to do, as you can see, all my teams is in here. I can send it to all my colleagues at Maxon. All the other programs that you can send it to would be in here. But then this is also where you can say save to files, and then it'll open up. And then you can say, well, where do you want it to go? And again, your really only destinations are your downloads and any other folder that you can access on my iPad, which is this. These are on my iPad folders. That's all you can access besides your iClouds or your Dropbox links and things like this. You can't access any other folders on an iPad. That's it. That's very limited. In fact, this files program was something that was not originally there in the iPads. It took years for them to actually make this app. And
It came out 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's new. So you weren't even able to do this before. You had no control of where the files went, really, before they did this, right? So I'm sure they'll probably expand upon this. Eventually, one day, maybe we'll get more like we do on a desktop. But right now, that's it, right? So those are your destinations of where you can save and where you can go, right? So this is pretty much the general gist of ZBrush for iPad. That's it. Like, it's simple, it's easy. The new UI, I think, is really awesome. We're allowing customizations in multiple ways. We are going to continue constantly jumping on that. One of the new exciting things I think that we have is really thinking about the iPad. So obviously in the most recent version, we just released surface noise, right? So what's nice about this got a whole new UI as well that we have continually looking at.
Can you mention the behavior of the subtools, how they changed?
Yeah, I'll load a file and show that to them so they can see it. Sure. So surface noise now is looking like this. And so you have all your main sliders, then you have the curve noise. So you can start playing with your curve noise. You have your colors separately and your alpha. This is where it becomes different. Because now I can actually do this and say, take a photo, and right. And now we're on an iPad. And I can snap a photo now and tell it to use, look how dirty my keyboard is. The keyboard, right? So now this is using the keyboard along with this, but there's just the keyboard. And I can scale this up, scale it down, right? This is very exciting. This is getting our juices going of other ideas and other things that we're going to implement and do now, where we can take advantage of the device, the iPad. It's not just about getting ZBrush on the iPad. It's about what can we do with it. And then the iPad, everything's very icon driven. So you can see on the bottom down here, everything's iconing, right? So this is copy, this is paste, this is save, right? And then this is load. Okay. So to Yariv's point of the new tooling, so this is something, this is something Yariv asked for. He's like, look, we need something that's better as a beta tester, right? That on the desktop, the behavior is this. When you guys go to the desktop, you don't even know you don't visually see what subtool you have selected in the list. You have to go find it. We changed that on the iPad version, okay? So I'm just going to take a look at this. In fact, actually, we'll just take this and rip this off. So as you are now selecting through subtools, you'll see the subtool list actually moves and shows you that selected subtool. So it'll do, even if it's closed and you click on something else and you open it, it'll go move to that for you. So this is only on the iPad. And these are the things, in all honesty, guys, we're using the iPad to even test run things and try things out because we're forced to because of such a smaller screen, and we're forced to, not everybody has a keyboard. Okay, and then there's things like I can swipe to the right and delete. Okay, I can swipe to the left, has nothing, but then there's your other options in here. Okay, you can long press and get options in here. Like all this is really built around the thought process of what we're trying to do by having the iPad and having a touch ability at our disposal. So it's very nice to have all this ability where we can experiment and try things, which is laying us for the foundation of things maybe we can start looking at what we can do with the desktop UI as well. So this has really triggered that. And I know for a lot of users are like, can you just put this on the desktop? It's not that easy to just take this and put it on the desktop. So it's also because it's wrapped around many things and it's wrapped around obviously a touch idea. So there's going to be more things that we'd have to think about as well. It's got to get thought out thoroughly. We don't want to just release it and do it. This is also why keyboard shortcuts are not there. There are a lot of scenarios we actually have to go through to make sure that works when you're loading your own keyboard shortcuts. What's up, Mo? Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
So this is pretty much your guts of the iPad. We really did a hard look at what features we could get in the initial release, right? Surface noise wasn't there in the initial release. So the update we just did this month had a lot of stuff. We updated the undo history. We got surface noise in. Not only that, we got also UV mapping in now. We've got texture mapping and we got displacement map applying, not generating. We're not allowing the generation of displacement maps right now. You can generate a texture map though, but what this opens up, I can now be bringing files in, and it opens up things for us to bring files in. I already have textures, which is great, which also goes to if I want to send this to another application that supports 3D on an iPad, it's in a lot of cases going to need textures. So there are other apps, especially like even like Procreate or Clip Studio, support 3D meshes, but those 3D meshes need to have UVs and texture maps in order to do painting on them. Okay. So Yariv, does the app you were working on previously, does it support 3D or is it only still 2D? Your Infinite Painter? I mean Painter?
Only 2D. Only 2D.
Okay. But with that said, this is leading us forward to what else we can do with the iPad. How else can we work with Procreate? How else can we work with Painter and Infinite Painter? And how else can we work with Clips? All of this is open up. There's even a program that it was in public beta that you guys can go render in. And it's a set, and all it is a setup program to allow you guys to set up scenes and stuff. They accept USDZ. They even accept GoZ. Cause they got the GoZ
What was it
SDK.
called? Feather? It was called Feather or something?
Hold on, I think I still have it on my iPad. I thought I did. It wasn't called Feather. I thought I still had it on my iPad.
Oh, Feather's amazing.
Yeah, I've been using Feather a lot lately. It's really cool, but without VR, it's hard to paint and draw and
It, it
and
wasn't
that.
Feather. It wasn't Feather. It wasn't Feather. Let's see if we can find it really quick. The one that I am talking about. Let's see. 3D viewer. Let's just try this. Like its goal was just
You know
about
they
us.
have Octane. You guys should know they have Octane render on
Yeah.
iPad,
Yes.
and I've been testing it lately. Scott Robertson got me into it. It is solid. I mean, that thing can render up like a soup of triangles. I mean,
Yep.
I think Maxon is a little late to the game on iPad. Just across everything. They could bring Cinema 4D to the iPad, and I think they would dominate the market.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. No, I don't see it. I'm trying to remember what name it was. The heck was that called? It's a weird name. I actually spoke to the developers. And then that's why I got them to implement GoZ actually. But I thought it was still on. Maybe it was on my iPad. Maybe it gone. Maybe they couldn't fund it. Maybe it got killed.
What was it called?
I don't
You
remember.
don't have any.
I don't remember. It was a
Hmm.
weird name. There is a slicing application also on the iPad that you guys can get to for slicing 3.
Do you think Tomas is going to bring over his
Maybe
Mango?
lychee.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. That's up to he's the CEO. That's up to him if he wants to do that. I'll have to see if I can remember the app I'm thinking of that's a viewer. But like I said, maybe they ran out of money and then the app died. They couldn't get it
Oh,
off.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's that one that allows you to draw in 3D. It's that one that has sorry about that. The outside. Um, they were I saw it at Lightbox as well. It was one that you could draw in 3D with. I remember,
Unless they've added that,
but
I don't remember that when I used it. It was literally just all you could do is import models, and then you would have HDR, so you have the lights, you can move around, you could duplicate things, and then you can it had rigid body effects, so you can actually make things collide and everything. And it was their number one goal was just I want to set up a scene on the iPad and then render it out and have a final image. That's it. That's all they were trying to
yeah,
do.
I haven't.
So when I was talking to them, they were just trying to get it off the ground running. They were in public beta. So
Do you think that if all we get is VPR for in the foreseeable future, that they would give us some filters at least for like depth of field and things like that?
wait for VPR.
VPR, like in our render here on iPad, if that's the best that we're gonna get, do you think that they could just bring us over some filters?
Oh, yeah. Well, BPR we have to look into. Filters is on my list because it also would really help the Procreate people and the 2D people that are using iPad to show them that you can make something really fast in 3D and
Do
render
you know
out.
anybody who uses 3D in Procreate? I asked that to Glenn. He said he doesn't know anybody that does it.
I do. There's a person that actually posted a work on ZBrush Central recently.
Was it
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, it was awesome. It looked great. It was very, very simplistic modeled, and then they just used the brushes in Procreate to paint, and it made it look very painterly.
Bring it up. I'd like to see what it looks like. Curious.
I don't know if I
But
can.
yeah, how do you even
Like a
set up
month
the
ago.
UVs though? If you model, I mean, he must have kicked it to something else and kicked
Well,
it
you
back to
don't need to.
Procreate.
You can just use ZBrush. We have now the UVs. Just use the automatic unwrapping here. So just use these.
Well, can you paint with AUVs or PUV tiles?
Yeah,
I mean, on
yeah.
something
You don't look at your UVs in Procreate. You're looking at the 3D model and you're just painting, just like
you
Photoshop.
can look at your UVs. There's a UV view.
I know, but you're not painting that way when you're in there. You're painting on physically on the model. Like, well, not
They
physically.
don't have symmetry paint even. They don't have symmetry even on there.
Yeah,
In their
we'll see what happens. So obviously there's grounds for more for us to keep pushing. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find this guy because I'm trying to remember how long ago. I know I commented and was talking to the person. but I comment and talk to a lot of people on ZBrush Central, so probably gonna be tough to find really quick. I know
Last
once I
question
see
about
it.
about ZBC. Do you feel like it's gotten a lot less traction since the days that I was posting on there? Like I felt
Yeah,
like it used to be like,
that's completely different than when you and I were on ZBrush Central learning on ZBrush Central. It's completely different.
like, did you know that thread? Everyone was looking there, and then there was like a bunch of other people's threads that people would follow. And it just seemed to be like that ever since they switched to this whole image-based thing, that it's less about what you're posting and more about how cool it looks as an icon, you know?
Yeah, but this is also was based on some of the user feedback. That the form, you were just looking at all text and it wasn't figuring out.
Yeah.
Find a comment. We need to find a comment. My biggest complaint, my biggest gripe is not just a ZBrush Central thing. I think it's across all sectors, and it's social media's fault. Is no one puts up like work in progresses anymore. No one's looking for help anymore by just posting. Everyone's trying to get their biggest and baddest and greatest render and get that online, and then trying
And
to
they're
get
feeding the AI bots. Yeah.
right. So instead of
Great.
hey, I'm working on this model, I could use some help, and people will come and help, right? I would love to bring that back somehow, but I'm just not seeing it anymore. People aren't willing to do it. Like they're scared.
You guys need to make you guys need to make on like in ZBrush Central, you guys need to make a whole row above your top rows that just show work in progress, like a whole form that's dealing just with work in progress.
I don't know if it's
Just
going
like
to
that's
work.
what's featured.
I don't know if it's going to work because everyone is Instagramming, right? I don't know if that's going to work. That'd be, I think, a poll we'd have to do too.
You know,
Because
Pablo Steal the Show Munoz Gomez. He told people never to post work in progresses.
yeah, that's because you're trying to get a job. I can understand because if someone finds it, they'll see their work in progress. That can make sense, but
Yeah.
uh,
I see on like Reddit, on the ZBrush subreddit, there's a lot of people post questions and a lot of feedback. Like that's the most active that you see. People still kind of like posting questions, getting feedback. Other than that, it's people go to YouTube, I think, because
Yeah.
if people have a question, just search it up on YouTube. And
this is also the problem is there's so many platforms that get answers now, right? So that's why they're not working progress. So like you just said, they go to Reddit, they go to YouTube, they go to the Discord. Like no one, there's not. Gary, when you and I were ZBrush Central was the only place you could go get ZBrush questions. That's it. That's why it was so.
I'll reveal one more thing to you. I had to sign up for ZBrush Central in order to download the PDF on how to use it. Remember? You had to like sign up and then you get the PDF.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
find the artist that showed a Procreate in ZBrush sculpt. It was.
But in all fairness, like, on the topic of machine learning, one of the things that I really think would be really great for everybody, and I vouch for everybody on this, it'd be great if somebody could figure out a way using AI to do perfect UV maps. Just like tearing apart a surface in the most logical way rather than having us do it. It feels like that's like the most tedious part of the 3D process. I know you guys broke serious ground when you did the UV master, but I think that like it's been years since then. It'd be really great to see a better way to approach it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. There's a couple of things you can look into for AI and see. I'm seeing if I can find it. I can't find the post that the person put on ZBrush shows. They also put it on ArtStation. They also put it on ArtStation and showed videos of them in ZBrush and then kicking it to Procreate.
That's very creative, to use their brushes because I think was he doing a PBR type thing or just a color map?
No, they was just taking the 3D model and then using that and then kicking that over and doing like painting on the model.
Have you guys ever thought about creating a blending brush with your color tools? So you would actually, because your brushing system kicks butt compared to theirs. I'm just curious if you guys would ever consider that to create like a blending brush.
As far as painting goes, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like a blend mode.
And being frank and honest, your two 3D painting applications are Mari and Substance. Like that's what most people are using, right? So, seeing if I can find. I'm gonna add a filter. I'll look real quick and see if I can find.
I've heard rumors that they might be ditching Mari soon. That's what Greg Limburger told me. He said that they've had a really hard time and a really hard year, last 2 years, Foundry. But I don't know if those are just rumors.
I don't
They
know.
got rid of Moto,
Yep.
so
Yep. They sure did, which is sad. Another program gone. That was really a great program. Had a great user base. It's really sad. I don't see it. I'll have to see if I can find it another time.
does GoZ still work with Moto, or is it broken, you think?
Well, they're the ones that did it. Moto's a dead program, so whatever the most recent is, that's it. That's the last one.
Hmm.
So whatever they have, that's it. We don't do GoZs. It's the responsibility of the other application to do GoZ, not us. The only
So
Go-
Luxology wrote the GoZ for ZBrush?
Not originally, no, we did. But it became too much work. And then they would release and then it would break. And then like, well, we're not ready to release, so it'd be broken for months at a time. So we switched GoZ. That's why it has an SDK. Anybody can go get it and make it for any program. So that's why we did that. So any other GoZs for any, like Marvelous just did a new GoZ update that's included a ton of stuff. Their team's the one that did it all, not us. So
I asked the people at Gravity
GoZs
Sketch to
that
do it.
we do and we are responsible at Max on is GoZ ZBrush to ZBrush, GoZ to Maya, and GoZ to 3D Studio Max.
Why do you guys handle GoZ to Maya?
Because Autodesk didn't want to do it when we rolled. GoZ is like 15 years old. And they didn't want to do it, so we did it. I would have to convince the product managers at Autodesk to take it over now. So,
Well, they
which I
have
would love.
Budbox still, so right?
Yeah, when they did GoZ, they did GoZ eventually. Like I think like 6 years, 7 years after we did it, they finally did a GoZ of their own with Mudbox and Maya, Mudbox and 3D Max.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
I know I posted it in there, but you said that it's possible to like with a curve brush, you can control the depth of the start of the brush, or is it just the brush, or is it the whole curve itself?
So when you were trying to make like a tapering brush, right? Kind of a little bit, but sculpturally.
Well, like I mean, what I was trying to do is like create something that isn't gonna like start like straight flush on the surface. Like I'd rather it like start to like come out maybe just a little bit underneath so that it's not like I don't know, so it looks like it's kind of organic in a way. That was like the effect I was going for instead of having to like pull out the curve and then like push it down in manually or some other way.
So you want, but you want to sculpturally do stuff. It's not anything like inserting meshes or something like that. You want to sculpturally do something.
Yeah, like think like if I was to like do like something like Swamp Thing or something, and there was like an area where I wanted like maybe some like vines that are like coming out, just look, but I wanted to like do things with like curves for like bigger ones, or even get down into like smaller things like that, where it just like it's gonna start underneath the surface of the mesh I'm putting the curve on, if that makes sense.
So let's see, we can think about this. Let's see if we can. Let's see, let's try and see something real fast. Let me experiment and see if this is kind of what you're thinking of. Um, let's see, we did not, I'm trying to remember what we put in. We did not. Didn't put them in here. This is something I'll have to look into. I know why we didn't put it in here. Okay, so let's just use this. My brain's going through something, so hold on. Okay, so we have a standard brush that's doing this, right? With an alpha. So let's pick the Z intensity up a little bit more. Okay, and then now you want to use a curve. So let's go to our stroke. Let's rip this off so we can experiment. Don't need that anymore. We'll move this down here. So we need to put curve mode on because that's you want to use this in essence, right? And then you want it to apply. Like that's what you're looking for. Like you want to use this. You want to use this is what you're saying. Right? Are you muted? I don't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, Chris, you're muted.
You're muted, Chris. We don't hear what you're saying.
Of course I am, because why not? Sorry. Yeah, like it's been a year, so I haven't had a time to like do a lot, but I guess it's like an IMM curve brush or like one of the, you know, like chains or things like that, not like necessarily what you're doing, but I wanted like the start of the curve to be under the surface, if that's possible or not. If not, no big deal. It
No, no, it's either they're either the curve well, it is in the sense that yeah, it's how you select your picker. So the picker drives how the curve sits. But you can't have the curve say, okay, start underneath the surface and then beyond the surface and then start underneath the surface.
Got it.
Not you can, in the sense of that might work for you, is you can use undo history with the curve and then it'll look at the undo history stored part. So I think what you're trying to do is something more like, I would probably say what you're trying to get down to, let's just say here, then let's switch to insert mesh brushes. Let's switch to the curve tube. There you are. Okay, so if you're doing curved tube as an example, right? And you're doing a tube, and let me get rid of my subdivision levels. Okay, so this is just looking at camera plane, right? So you can see it's inside and outside. So what's controlling that is your picker is what's controlling that. Right, so this is the guts of the system too, is what do you want for orientation and what do you want for depth, right? So you can see depth is once, okay? And then orientation is also once. So it looks at the depth once, and then that's the depth it makes, and then the orientation also of what it's looking at, so camera plane in essence. And then that's it. So that's why it's sitting inside the surface, okay? So then what we started to do is think about things a little bit of maybe where you want to go a little bit. So it would be something like, okay, let's now go into the tool palette. Let's duplicate this. All right, and then we'll throw transparency on. And then I am going to size this one down. Whoops, let me clear my mask. Size this one down so it sits inside, right? So this is sitting inside the other cylinder, okay? So if you come up your undo history and store this on this one, and then go back to the other one, the curves are now going to appreciate the other cylinder, not the one that necessarily we're looking at, okay? So when you start playing with anything now with a curve, part of what extrude profile is, this one, is a part of this thought process. Like this is like, hey, this could be hair, right? And then start doing this. And you'll see the beginning of the brush is actually inside.
Right.
It's not on the surface. So this is how you could start playing with something like that. So this brush would be like, okay, I just want to start drawing these out. Okay. And then it's doing this. So the first part is a new feature that we added in the stroke palette. Newer feature in the stroke palette. Okay, so you're going to have your curve mode changes. So maybe I want bend. Let's say I'll do both of these so I can play with these and then manipulate it right the way I want to. Here, well, then you have your functions. Okay, but in the modifiers, there are other things that you can also do through here as well. Obviously, there's your intensity, there's your size for this. Okay, but in curve, there's repel options. So this is what's making the brush when it starts to come off the surface and then go. So this is in essence kind of like ignore the picker in a way. It's not what it's doing, but it's saying it's repel it off the surface first by 2 times, right? So this you can go up to 10 times, and then this is how strong it's going to be, right? So when you put those sliders higher and higher, then it's going to change the way this works, right? So if you start playing with these, see, more of it's coming off the surface before the rest of the curve takes over. And then what we did with this is also to add an element of even more controls, because then you're going to start doing stuff like this where you're crossing over, right? And then as you are building up, see how they keep going out further and further and further and further? Because what's controlling that is if we go back to the picker, you can see closest Z now is what is turned on. It's no longer looking at once or continuous, it's looking at the closest. So in essence, it's looking at the thing it sees closest, which is that hair. So if you do this, right, it's trying to find the closest one to make as its barrier to propel out to and then attach to. Okay, so then farthest is the opposite, right? It's going to try and find the farthest one. So you have these types of controls. And so see, now this is finding the cylinder that's the furthest away from where I drew. And then you see it's propelling off and it's starting inside the surface because I have that undo history stored on the inside portion. So as far as this goes, that's about as much controlling that you can do. You can say where it looks to snapping kind of in the way. You can tell it to snap to an underlining surface first. And then that point, then it goes from there.
So will that work with like the tube snap brush where it's basically contouring along the surface or something?
Yeah, you just have to switch the picker. And the only difference between the curved tube snap and the curved tube is the picker's different. It has the snapping one has continuous on, and then it has snap on in the stroke mode. And the curved tube doesn't have any of the snapping on, and it's just once and once. That's it. That's the only difference. It's the same brush otherwise. There's no difference between them. That's what's different between those two. Cool.
Yeah.
So this is what you could do, because you could probably have an inner surface, right? Like you're saying, if you're trying to do Swamp Thing, then build some kind of internal cylinder that the curve can start snapping to when you start, right? And then store that on do history, and then use propel, come out the surface, and then you just push it back in. That's probably what I would do as an example. Okay, that help? Did that answer some of it for you?
It gives me something to play with to try and do what I'm trying to mess around with. I get a chance, if I get a chance. So.
Obviously, if you turn on the lock start lock end, you could just push your end and your starts inward. Just turn off the snap. Just don't have the snap on. That's it. Like you could draw it out with snap on, right? So it snaps to the surface. Right. So if we even just take, this should work. So let's say insert curve tube snap, right? So when I draw this, it's just going to snap to the surface, which is interesting. Did I change this? Hold on, let me see. Did I change my picker? Oh, I have an undo history state. So I can clear it this way. That's why it's doing what it's doing. Okay, so this, right, is just on your surface. So this would be like you're saying, I got vines being like this, right? So everything's snap. So just go into your stroke palette now, right? And then turn off the snap. And then put these on. Put all 4 of those on. And now just go move the curve in. Right? That's what I would do.
Okay.
Right? And then obviously you go with a bigger draw size. Oops. And you can pull things in and out that way, right? And I accidentally adjusted this draw size too. And then that'll give you the control that maybe you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's probably what I would do to make it easy. Cool. Okay. Anything else that's come up for anybody?
Yeah, I'm curious when you're using the curves, how do you get it such that it root, like if you're doing hair or something like that, that it would plant at the base and then it would curve outward, like and repel and interact with the elements around it.
What are you talking about when I was showing the picker stuff and everything and showing the propelling of a part of it, you mean? Are you talking about these sliders?
Yeah, where it repels and things like that.
Yeah, though that's what's controlled. This is what's controlling it to repel off the surface. So the higher you put this, the more it's going to try and repel, go straight out instead, and then start looking at the surface to wrap around, right? So it ignores for the first part, the first multiple edge loops, in essence. It's telling like this is in essence like you really could probably look at this as 13 edge loops. Don't allow it to snap, go 13 edge loops, and then allow it to bend and find the surface. That's what this is doing. And then this is just controlling the fall off of it. Like, do you want it to be kind of really quick, or do you want to kind of be really high and then arc down, kind of a thing? So this is in essence saying how far out of the insert mesh are you going to go repelling? And this is saying, do you want that to be really quick, or do you want it to be a while and then repel out? And then the picker is what's saying, do you want to, normally you would want continuous on, but then when we did these two sliders is when we added in the picker the closest and farthest. Because when I was doing this, we also, when we did this, that's when we also added one of my favorite brushes are the extruder brushes. That's when we made these brushes. So any flat mesh now gets extruded along a curve. So when I was doing these, I was like, huh, this could be some fun to be like some game hair or 3D printing hair. My problem was this, I just kept like, I can't do one over another, over another, over another, over another. So that's why we made the picker say, what do you want it to find? So see, now it's always going to be the next hair isn't going to go inside the surface, right? It's finding it to where I want, and then I can edit it how I want to. But the initial draw out is going to look, see? So see, it's further out. That's what it's doing. That's part of the picker. That's what that picker is doing. So we made all those features together in a way because of the kind of stuff we wanted to do. And then this one's got propel and everything on, and this one does not. This one's got no tapering. It's got no nothing. It's just allowing you to do this, right? That's it. Just give me the same thing across the surface, but don't allow it repel, don't allow anything, but it's all the same meshes. Because then I was using this for hard surface, and then I built this brush on purpose where half the surface sits inside and half the surface sits on the outside. So I can just draw these out while on a mesh that has live Boolean on and just go for days and make scribe lines and just draw them out. That's why I built the brush this way. I built it on purpose like this. And I built every one of these in the depth to be that ability. So you're going in your depth, right? I wanted the embed to be something specific from when I'm drawing them out. Does that answer your question, Yuri?
I think it does. I think that it does. The only other question I had was the capture RGB, capture depth and capture RGB. Excuse me, we called it the extractor brushes, I think at one point. I've had a hard time getting those to work properly on the iPad.
The extractor brushes are going to be, let's see, let's go back to the tool palette. Let's switch to like a plane. Let's make that a poly mesh. Let's say, let's divide that up. We'll go a little bit more. Let's pick something like Damien Standard. Okay, so we want to reuse this in essence, right? I kind of want to reuse what I've been building here again. So that's the point of kind of the extractor is kind of make your own alpha that you might want to use over and over and over again, or there's a part of the mesh that you sculpted and now you just want to use that portion again. right? So that's the thought process through the extractor. So we
It
have
doesn't
to
have
go,
to be on a flat plane, right?
no, it does not have to be on a flat plane. No. So there's three types of extractors. There's a drag dot, there's a rectangle, or there's just give me the whole thing. So the first one is, in this case, is where I would select this particular one, because this is the one that I want to have the ability to just draw the whole alphabet and make it. Okay, so I'm going to probably, here, I'm going to pull this off. So we have it, and then switch it to this. Okay, so I'm going to go into my settings, and we've ripped out the settings that I want to use to get to this extractor. So actually what I want is not, I want alpha, not. Okay, so I want to have some controls here. So these are your extractor options. So that button right there from brush is the G shortcut on your desktop, in essence. That's all it's doing, is turning that on. So when you click this, you're now in extractor mode. So now you just press and follow your sculpt, and then let it pick up, and then there it made the alpha. And so now when I draw, I get the same alpha. That's it. And if you have paint on, you got to have it painted, and then RGB will be on by default, and then it'll also make a texture at the same time. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're good.
Okay. Anything from anybody else? Bueller, Spagoli. Okay. Well, there's not really much else to show. Like, I walked through all the iPad for you guys in this recording. I went through it, so you guys have that. If you're getting the iPad, you can go revert back to this. Again, hopefully I'll see maybe if I can get some of you who missed the beginning meeting. I've literally had no time to work on anything personal project-wise for over a year and a half. Unfortunately, since White Sculpt Corner kind of fell to the wayside, the iPad version engulfed our lives in the ZBrush world. It was, almost a year and a half project by itself to 2-year project. So it was not something that was done easy. And we were all just working crazy hours to get this to work on an iPad and getting the features in, testing. There was a lot. So I have not done anything personal sculpting in over a year and a half. So we'll see if hopefully I'm taking some time off for the holiday, and maybe I'm hopefully
You
trying to
built a
get some catch up.
Skeletor.
Not really. I didn't finish him at all. He's not finished. He's nowhere near finished. It was the first
Tell me the
sculpt I-
last time you finished a model within the last 3 years.
Honestly, I can't even think the last month. It might even be the TIE Fighter was the last thing I finished completely. It was probably the TIE Fighter. Was
Oh,
my last-
right. I even forgot to ask you to print me one too.
Yeah, that was it. Well, that's easy. I have printed ones next to me. Yeah, I never finished the Skeletor. I wanted to finish him. Here he is. I had to change his there. So see, nowhere near done. So, but it was the
Okay.
first model I started on the iPad. So it would be nice to finish him.
Wow.
But nope. Hopefully I can get
One of the
some
things
stuff
I think
done.
that might make one of the things that you guys should do is in the export feature is export to ZBrush Central. That would be really cool. Export to social, that sort of a thing.
Yeah. Yep. I've had thoughts about that as well. Got to make all the API work together.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm stoked for this. Like, I've had like minimal time to mess with it, but it's like things are smoothing out now to where I can actually get back to doing stuff again. So
Yeah.
Chris, this totally replaces
boat.
the desktop, dude. Like if you're doing stuff like for your toys or if you're doing stuff, I use it every day. Like it's so cool. I can be across from the Western Wall, out overlooking it in the middle of my Yeshiva Academy, looking out the
Nice.
window. And it's just amazing. Like I was at the Dead Sea using it on the shore. I
That's
mean, who
awesome.
would have ever thought? I mean, I did get sand in the keyboard, but you know what? You got to bleed a little bit. You know, so yeah, I mean, it was, I think that Paul's done like tremendous. You guys have no idea how often, how long this guy works for us, you guys. He is the ZBrush messiah. He has died for our features, you know. Yes. Oh, do stick keys cause a problem for you, Paul, in this in ZBrush? Like, I mean, you guys have a stick key feature that you didn't show off.
No, stick keys is turned off, so it's not on. So I don't use the keyboard, so I think it's a keyboard thing.
No, it's a feature in ZBrush in the interface.
No, it's turned off. We turned it off. We turned it off after
You
we
know what I'm saying?
released
Where
it.
you can hold down the shift and it stays held.
No, we turned that off.
Oh, really? It still works. Well, I guess I have to report that bug to you. It's still, yeah.
Are you
it's still
talking
coming back, unfortunately.
iPad? When you say sticky keys, there's a feature in ZBrush called sticky keys, but it has nothing to do with the iPad. Are you talking about
The
that?
iPad has
Are you talking about having
holding
these
down.
you just press and it stays
Yeah.
on? Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's
No, there's way too many scenarios that we have to code for to go make that work. So I turned it off.
okay. So but it's coming back, I guess, for some reason on one of my models, and it's showing up.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
the only time I've seen that is people involving with a keyboard, honestly. So I think it's a keyboard thing that we got to find that's causing that stickiness.
Yeah, when I have my Logitech keyboard attached to it from my Logitech case on the M4, it has that issue where it will stick to those things will stick down, holding down and pressing Alt. But was that too problematic when you guys had that ability? It just kept jamming on people?
Yeah, because there's features that they're not paying attention, and then their Alt keys down, their Shift keys down, their Control key. Like the Shift key, you can actually switch. It doesn't have to be a smoothing brush, and that was the #1 problem. So we'd have to turn stuff like that off, along with a lot of other scenarios. What if you're in something and the Alt key does
That is the coolest feature.
Think about ZRemesher. Holding the Alt key makes a different ZRemesh. Like all that stuff has to be figured out and coded to do what you're bringing up and what you're asking.
How do you color pick, by the way? I've always wondered that question.
You right here. We don't have the click and drag yet.
There's no like,
There's no click and drag yet.
like where you can hold down on a palette and then swipe out to your
No.
colors.
No, that doesn't exist yet. Something that has to be looked at.
Okay. Thank you so much, Paul.
Sure. All right. If there's nothing else, that's it. There isn't much more I have on my end. Hopefully, hopefully I can get more interaction with you guys, and then eventually maybe get everything back up and running. Maybe do another run of a workshop and see if we can get more people to join us.
Dude, I tell you, you were the best. You were the best teacher I had ever. That you were, in fact, you were the only teacher that has ever taught me ZBrush outside of Taryn. So,
yeah.
you know.
Well, that's kind of you to say, but I don't know if I'm at that level.
Well, I mean, I don't know of anybody else who would like take a job at Best Buy to get a job at Pixelogic to then go in and run the company. A user now runs ZBrush. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's like saying an animator can run Disney.
Yeah. We will see. We're definitely it's a team effort of the stuff we're doing. So see what happens. We're excited about some things that we're working on. Hopefully some of the stuff that we're working on can come to full fruition. It should be very exciting. The future of ZBrush is very, very, very exciting. The stuff that Adolfo and I and the team are working on is going to be pretty awesome if we can make some of the things that we've written down happen.
I honestly think it was a good sale to Maxon. What do you guys think? You think it was a good sale? You think it was worth it? Users?
I mean, you know, anytime I tune into a stream, there's always like somebody that's like, man, they sold out. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, it's good they sold out. Like there's a low ceiling cap to this. And like you guys of any company that's ever produced something for creatives, like you all deserve it more than anyone. So yeah, I don't mind it. Keeps it like,
I mean,
on
aren't
their
you
table,
happy
lights
that,
on, like,
that
totally
Adobe
cool.
didn't get their hands on ZBrush? That would have been like the worst thing ever. Had
That'd have been
Ofer sold it to, would have been terrible.
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't get the sellout thing. It's just
I
like,
don't either. I mean,
I
it's
don't- I
like
don't
that's
get-
that's the
I
point.
don't get it for anything. It's not a sellout.
Yeah.
It's a sale.
Yeah.
It's not selling out.
No, it's
If
the
anything,
next-
it's better for you all because the team's bigger. Or there's more. There would be no iPad if we were still Pixel. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
There'd be no iPad version.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
keeps you
Ofer
on-
didn't have an interest in it, did he? Ofer didn't have like a strong desire to be on the iPad or mobile.
Not really.
Yeah, I also think that the Redshift render. I mean, Mo Langerman has been getting me to use it more and more and more, but like it's powerful to be inside ZBrush. Really powerful.
Yeah, there's hopefully more coming with that. That's just the beginning. So
Well, you know, I'll tell you, we're ditching our key shot licenses at the end of the year, David said.
yeah.
And I'm gonna be using Redshift more. He's wanting to switch to Redshift. He wants to switch the company over to Cinema 4D. We currently use 3D Studio Max
Mhm.
and you know, that one application that's the name of a kitchen utensil. The I think that it's you know, it's inevitable that you want a product that is going to live and has, you know, some life to it. And I think that it's great to see that ZBrush is out there live and kicking. I can tell you that 100% that this is Z coming to the iPad, I think is tremendous. I actually got somebody to buy ZBrush desktop and I told him, yeah, you know, it comes with the ZBrush iPad version too. And you guys did a
Redshift.
really great job marketing that as well, because now people see it as like a 2-for-1, you know,
And Redshift.
and all the people complain.
And Redshift.
But the CPU version of Redshift is
Sure,
like,
but you still are getting a photorealistic renderer for as part of the subscription.
yeah.
To start, you could start with it that way. So
Have you ever just used the CPU version?
yeah, I started using the CPU version when we first. Yeah, you need a pretty good CPU, of course, but
Yeah, I mean, the GPU version is incredible on the Mac side. I mean, I was enthralled how fast it was. But I haven't tried it yet on a PC. I heard it's better. At least that's what David said. Anyways, thank you so much for your time, everybody. Have a great week. And yeah,
and
thank
those
you.
in America have a fantastic Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
All right, Thanksgiving
Enjoy.
weekend. Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Thanksgiving.
Is it when is Cyber Monday?
Next Monday. Not this coming Monday.
So it's not this coming Monday, but
Week from
is
Monday.
there going to be any? Can you tell us of any sales going on in ZBrush?
I have no
for
idea.
Cyber-
I haven't been. I don't keep up on that stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. Does Maxon sell any perpetual licenses at this point, or everything has gone
No,
subscription?
there's no perpetual anymore. It's all subscription.
Do the Cinema 4D people have the same reaction that some of the former ZBrush people do?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Then they're not happy about it, I take it.
Yeah, there's most people don't want a subscription, but for a lot of software companies, it's how we have to survive now. With all the iPad free apps and all the free Blender and everything, that's who we're competing as. We got to survive somehow. We got to pay staff. We got to pay new developers to make new features. So
Well, I'll tell you something, like I still use 2022 because the people at Faceform, you know, the ZRAP people, they
Yeah.
don't have the money to make ZBrush a new version of the plugin on the Mac side. And they've been very nice to me and they're like, yeah, this is what we can. So I've been exporting those Z files into ZBrush for, to get it from 2024 to 2022 and then back. It works okay. It's not bad.
cool. Yeah, they're good
Is
guys.
there any way to append multiple? Or do you need Subtool Master to do that, to export multiple GoZs?
You would need multiple meshes as individual meshes. You need subtool. You'll need you just do an FBX. But are you talking for iPad? You don't have an iPad. You don't have FBX. You can do USDZ. on the iPad.
No, but we need the information in ZBrush.
W-
Meaning we need ZBrush specific information, like creases and things of that nature
No.
that we're building.
Only Go Z, and it won't do all of them at once. You could use Go Z.
There's
or
not with Subtool Master, you can't export multiple ones.
multiple meshes at once.
Multiple Go Zs of your layer stack. Of all of your subtool stack.
No, it can import multiple. It can't export multiple all at once. Nope.
I hope we get the Subtool Master in iPad. Definitely would be great. Delete invisible subtools. That's a feature.
We'll be looking at all plugins. They got to be rewritten for iPad's sake.
Is color adjust as well? Polypaint color adjust, is that also something you guys are considering?
I don't know. A lot of these I'll probably just make part of ZBrush and not be a plugin anymore.
That would be wonderful.
That's the
That is the way.
This is the way.
Any hints on when Z Modeler is coming?
It is being worked on.
Yes.
It is coming.
We're working hard.
Got a lot. There's a lot. It's not just about putting the brush on the iPad. There's a lot coming for it.
I'm sure it's
Trust me.
I mean, just think
That
about
one's tricky.
how much work it took to make the deformers in ZBrush, like the interface for it, like look that good. It took them a long time. It wasn't so simple.
There's exciting stuff besides just Z Modeler too. Just
I'm sure.
buckle up. Buckle up.
I'm sure.
I mean,
I'm doing a lot of hard surface stuff these days. So
well, we got some good stuff coming in. Nothing to say more than that.
Should be good.
Sweet.
All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Guess I'll save this.
uh,
I'm playing with it.
if I don't know if you've got a few minutes, but I wanted to, if you had time, I wanted to ask you a couple of things about the ZBrush and the stuff I'm doing like right now.
Sure, go ahead, shoot.
It's kind of, well, yeah, so I started working for like this medical or it's like a startup, but like they've been around for about 7 years. They do like custom made 3D printed implants, like pretty much almost every part of the body, like the major joints, at least like ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers, I think even some spine stuff. Sure, I'm not sure about, but like that's the bulk of it. We do is like lower extremity stuff, and like I'm on the upper extremity team doing like shoulder implants. But we use a CAD software called 3Matic, which is like, I guess I had never heard of it until I took the job, but I guess it's one of the industry standards for doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
The problem with it is like an individual license is like $75,000, and
Yeah.
like somehow like there's a guy that like he works there, doesn't work there, but he's doing like he's in his like medical program, but like he's able to get the company like so many floating licenses and whatnot, but like they're thinking about other things. Like I don't know like if people are using ZBrush for medical stuff or not.
Yep.
And like they are like
Yeah. We're used heavily to do prosthetics and things. I've been a guest speaker at the conference. It's not a very big industry. There's probably only maybe 350 people total in the entire world that do this.
Okay.
So it's not very big at all. But
Uh.
if you get in it and you're good at it, there's a lot of money for sure. Because like you said, like listen, that piece of software is $75,000. So they charge a lot, right? To make
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So ZBrush is used a lot to make prosthetics along with and the other CAD applications that they're using within the process.
Mhm.
And then they're also obviously doing scan data and bringing that in and then building from that scan data as well.
Yeah, that's
Even to the point of people are bringing DICOM files, which we don't accept DICOM, but they convert it to an STL, and then they bring it in to the point of where CAT scans and everything. And then doing, orbital bone replacements, doing jaw replacements, doing zygomatic arches and all that. They'll just use ZBrush to do some of that processing for them, for sure. Dental too. There's a lot of stuff in the dental too that ZBrush is being used for.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, so, my buddy, like he just did this whole from the ground up like process where he's like basically able to like replace like a maxilla, and I mean it's incredible. Like when he just showed off like the first case that actually went to surgery, and I almost had to like leave the meeting because they showed pictures of this lady, and like for like 15 years she had just uncontrollable saliva, couldn't eat solid foods. But the photos and like when you saw the look in her eyes, like it just, I mean, it floored me, you know. But it's a really tedious process, and there's a lot of people that want us to do this like right now. And like I've been talking with him, and was like figuring out the cages that he designs that they go like throughout here, you know, like I think could be expedited. I feel like there's a way. It's just that I'm not savvy enough with what we do yet, because it's like it's still like very new to me.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if I could maybe set up like a meeting to like talk with him.
Sure.
And
Sure.
like see if there's some way that we could figure this out, because like
Yep.
man,
Yeah. So give him my Maxon email address, and if you want to jump in, you guys can jump in and we can take a look.
Cool.
And I will give you over the years what I've done with the same type of people. So
Yeah.
that's my Maxon one. It's just p_Gabriel@maxon.net.
Okay.
And then we can get in and see what you got, what you're doing. Show me the workflow. Show me what is being done.